Hello and welcome to Fishing on Northwest. Wayne and Tommy Donlin.
What do you think, Tommy?
It's the best. There you go.
I was not going to make the one.
Living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got.
Hello and welcome to Fish on Northwest. Wayne England, Tommy Donlin. 2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. What's this all about?
Man, I'm going to write this down.
Hey, don't get used to it. Big game season's coming up for me.
I know
Okay?
you're going to be on the road. Yeah. I'm going to be solo flight once again, time and time again. Anyway, I want to welcome everybody to the show. We have a great show lined up for you today and lots of great content as always to get to. But gosh, before we get too far along here, I want to remind everybody if it's your first time joining us, especially if you're joining us here on Root Sports, take some time, jump on over to our webpage, www.fishhuntnw.com. They're going to find a lot of insightful tips and information, DIYs and blogs and lots of how-to stuff. Of course, the video footage lives there as well. And please take advantage of the coupon codes. Edge Rods, we're coupled up with Edge Rods. We're going to save you 20% on every purchase if they're not already subjected to another price reduction or saving. So Edge Rods, FHN20 at checkout, and you're going to save 20%. Also, Phelps Game Calls, Fish Hunt NW10 with Phelps Game Calls. Tommy, that runs throughout the entire year on all Phelps Game Calls. And this is, perfect time of season now as we get rolling into September. And
it's game time. If you haven't started practicing your calling already, you really need
You're late to the program, right? Yep. So some things happening this week. Boy, kind of a change in weather. You know,
yeah, I know. Well, it's fall already. That's how it
feels like it. Yeah. Leaves are actually turning. If you look around, the maples are usually the first to get going, right?
Yeah.
So leaves are changing color. Definite drop in temperature. Now we get some warmer temps coming back, but man, I'm telling you, I'm caught. You know, as Herzog would always say, frozen with indecision. I mean, some of our summer on steelhead rivers, ideal time right now as we roll into September. Some of the best summer on steelhead opportunity is right out there waiting for you. And this bump of weather and the rain we've had, flushing that fresh water out there.
Yeah.
Where them fish are heading to some of our rivers already, they're stampeding.
Yeah, they may be turning in already, right?
They're already heading for it. So we do have a few openings and closing and things we want to discuss. So the closure is pending, coming to Westport.
Yeah,
very soon.
Yeah,
what a season! Though,
unfortunately, phenomenal season. I mean, credit to Dave Johnson. Hey, thank you, brother Dave.
Yeah.
For negotiating and allowing us to have the season that we did in Westport. It was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I can't think of really any other port where you can go out, day in and day out and consistently put Chinook on the boat that are, high teener, 20 fish. The biggest fish we got this year was 27 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just hard to beat. And to not even really have to run that far. I mean, you're running, 12 to 14 miles out of port, out of Westport.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just such
no time at all.
I know, that's a phenomenal game. So unfortunately, Westport Marine Area 2 is closing Saturday, end of Saturday.
Saturday.
So you can fish this Saturday, the 24th. You cannot fish the 25th, just to be really
definitely
super clear on that.
Gotcha.
And the other thing is you cannot go to another marine area and catch fish and go back to Area 2 Westport. So
do not get caught
you're
transporting through with salmon on board.
That's right. If you're going out of Westport for some sort of fish, it better be bottom fish or tuna.
There you go.
Not salmon.
Yep. So along with that, though, we've had some pretty amazing dam counts as of late.
Sure.
If you haven't been paying attention to the Columbia River dam counts, Andy Wagemont over there at Northwest Sportsman's Magazine wrote a real short, brief article this last week here. There's a marker that they utilize from the 1st to the 18th. First of all, they start counting fall Chinook the August 1st over Bonneville, right? So historically, that time frame, years prior, the 20-year average on that, we're talking August 1st to the 18th, 10-year average, 15,500 fish. The other last week, by the 18th, we'd hit 29,000, almost 500.
Yes, almost double the 10-year average.
Almost. So him and a lot of other folks are starting to get excited, and you start looking at that. Well, I pulled up the dam counts today, 59,770.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you today's the 22nd. He wrote that article, I think it came out the 19th. So he had wrote it focused on the 1st to the 18th. We've had almost 30,000 fish in the last 4 days.
Yeah.
They're stampeding. They looked at the numbers. It's 10,000 plus, 10,000 plus, 9,000 plus. I'll be very curious to see if we don't kind of hover in that 8 to 10,000 for days and days and days and days, and see how this thing materializes. In 2015, when we had that record Chinook run, 954,886, so almost 955,000, close to a million Chinook. The 18th marker, there's only 24, just barely under 25,000 fish. Okay, we hit almost 30,000 here this year going into it. So I'll be very curious to watch this and see what's going on with the Columbia and how this fall Chinook run continues to materialize. So, okay, before we get too far behind you, running down the show. When we come back from break, Jason Phelps Game Calls. Did you see this, Tommy? Alaska Dall Sheep Hunt of a lifetime. Going to talk to Jason about the preparation. Then we'll be back with Phelps in a second segment as he recounts the hunt and the experience, and you guys can live through him vicariously and see if it gets your attention. Bring it back to the show. It's been a bit. Our buddy Kyle Buschelman, Willamette Valley Outfitters LLC, Columbia River Buoy 10, going off the chart on some days, Tommy. We're going to talk with Kyle where to be and when. Tidal fishery, you got to move around quite a bit and understand it. So plus water temperature, does it really matter? Then we'll do a second segment with Kyle, rigging specifics, what to present, where, and why. I want to get your notepad out for this one because it's going to be very detailed information. Then our first true guest to the studio, Tommy, can't think of anybody better, longtime acquaintance, and we've talked for years, even back on the radio days. Frank Urabeck, long-standing advocate for the Lake Washington Sockeye Recovery. Little history lesson with Frank that I think you're going to enjoy. Then we'll go round two with Frank, Lake Washington Sockeye, the future, and is there actually any hope? And then we'll come back and close out the show with Frank as we get through it. So already running behind, way too much to get to tonight, but we're going to find our way. Jumping out for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We come back. Jason Phelps right here, Fishing Northwest. Welcome back to the program, Dwayne England, Tommy Donlan, and first guest on the docket tonight, none other than our longtime buddy, Jason Phelps Game Calls. Welcome back to the program, Jason. I know you've been extremely busy, so I always appreciate you taking time to join us here on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you put on Facebook, Hunt of a Lifetime, Alaska Dall Sheep. So let's talk a little bit about that. I think you told me you actually booked it in like 2020. Describe the process for people unfamiliar with acquiring that tag. Is it putting in for it and getting a draw? Is it an over-the-counter purchase and you just spend a lot of money? How do you go about getting that tag for a Dall sheep?
Yeah. So there's quite a few different ways to do it. You can book Canada if you want a Dall sheep hunt, or you can go the Alaska route. Well, I was going to go the Alaska route, and my guide and outfitter is permitted in the Tok management area. So I when I called him, I wanted to be, I wanted to hunt with him and not one of his guides, and I wanted to be the first hunt of the year, not his second hunt of the year. And so I could have went in 23 as his second hunt of the year, and then in 24 he had the opening to be first, and so he has you apply all the way up until you go on your hunt. If you draw one of the special management area takes, he'll take you that year, but if not, you'll go into an open unit. So if you're first to kin, if you go with an outfitter, there are open sheep units within Alaska that's open to non-residents. They also have some areas that are only open to rural local residents. So me being unlucky in the Alaska draws, my time came up in 24, and I just moved into an open sheep unit with the outfitter.
Awesome.
So let's talk about that outfitter for a second, Jason. So that is like, you wait and wait and wait for this hunt. How did you choose that outfitter? Like, what does that process look like for you?
So normally I would have spent more time researching. I had a buddy, Chris Parrish, who, for those that follow turkey calling, was one of the most winningest turkey callers of all time. Been on Letterman and all of that. So my good buddy Chris, he went with this guy in 2017 and killed like in the middle of the first day. And I'm like, well, that seems pretty good. And so I called Chris, like, how was it? He's like, as good as it gets. And so that was as far as my reference checking went. Checked out his website a little bit. I had just got done with my Washington goat hunt on Mount Baker. Once my nerves kind of settled, I wanted to be back on the mountain, and some sketchy stuff. And so it had been 3 years between when Chris had hunted and when I had went. And finally I was to a point where I'm like, man, these things aren't cheap, but they're not getting any cheaper. It's always been a dream to go hunt sheep. And so let's just do it. And I even asked the outfitter, I was like, is it okay if I like book it and put money down and I just pay you until it comes up? And then that way my wife doesn't know exactly how much if she doesn't do the math, it might slide under the table. And so we had booked it for 4 years out, and I was just making, payments to him as the hunt was coming along. And I got a real scare about halfway into paying him. The sheep population in Alaska really took a nosedive, and he asked me not to pay him in the third year. And I'm like, oh boy, am I going to get my money back?
Right.
And thankfully Alaska's been able to maintain a season. But the sheep aren't doing as well as they once were, 5 to 10 years ago.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about preparation. I mean, anytime you're going on a hunt, especially something like this that you've been, thinking about since you were a little kid, there's a lot of preparation involved. So talk a little bit about physically preparing for what you assumed you might be up against, and also shooting in preparation. Were you, focused on longer shot, or how'd you go about your process and preparation?
Yeah. So physical preparation, for those that don't know me, I'm a bigger guy, 6'4", 250, but I've been in the mountains enough to just kind of know myself. I'm too stupid to ever quit, but I wanted to kind of polish up on my physical side. So about middle of April, I got back from a turkey hunt, and from then on it was, trying to do 1,500 feet every morning on the stair climber. And then I also know myself well enough that working out on a stair climber with perfect steps every time isn't great. So then about 2 months leading up to the hunt, I started doing about a 6-mile loop here at my house, albeit it only has 100 feet of elevation, but it does have some steep up and downs, uneven terrain. And so, just started taking the dog for a walk 4 to 5 times a week and getting in those, 25 to 30 miles. So physical preparation, I felt really, really good. I was eating good, had lost some weight. I was at my fighting weight at 245, kind of going into the hunt, felt really, really good.
Yeah.
Going up. One thing, fast forward to the hunt, after I killed the sheep, put a bunch of weight on my back, and then had to go down. I hadn't trained well enough for steep down. Knees and quads were definitely on fire.
Loaded with weight for sure.
Yeah. And I didn't have my hiking poles anymore because I was carrying my gun at this point. So it was really just like trying to keep my own balance. And so as far as getting in shape, I uphill on the hunt, hike in, never really got tired, felt really, really good. Shooting, I shoot a lot all the time. I kind of got into the long range stuff. And so I've always felt my shooting was dialed. Nothing could have prepared me though for the rest that you were given while you're Dall sheep hunting. And I think I was joking with you the other day. I'd rather taken an 800-yard prone shot than this 180-yard shot the way I had to take it.
Right.
Just really uncomfortable. So I didn't shoot a lot, but I wasn't really prepared for the shot either.
Gotcha. We're going to take a pause right here because you're going to start getting into the actual hunt, which we're going to completely have you do. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. Jason, you're going to just walk us through it, man. We're going to relive this experience with you. And I can't wait to hear the full details. Don't go anywhere. Jump out for a quick break. Come back with Jason Phelps right here, Fish on Northwest. All right, welcome back to the program here. Dwayne England, Tommy Donlan, and Jason Phelps still holding on to get through the rest of this torture. Hey, buddy, so let's let you walk on through it. Briefly take us in and describe exactly how this all came together for you, if you can summarize within a couple minutes.
Yeah, I'll try to speed this up.
All
So,
right.
Anybody that's seen sheep hunting, pretty physical, pretty extreme. So we hiked way in, set up our base camp, wanted the glass from there first thing, and then we knew if we didn't see sheep on our side of the drainage, it was going to be straight up and over. So over the first 4 hours of opening morning, we climbed either straight up or through rocks. And when we got to the ridge top, I thought he was joking because he said, yeah, we're going to go up through there. And he pointed through a bunch of loose rock and cliffs. And I'm like, how the people can't physically get through that? But when you got over there, it wasn't too bad. We picked our way, and it wasn't as bad as it looked from across the canyon. But at first I was a little nervous, and we were just kind of, we say, around a mountain, but you're slowly just kind of working your way in a circle. We had a big circle hunt planned, and we'd eventually end up back at our camp without ever retracing steps. So we get up there, and Matt's a very quiet guy. My guide, Matt Snyder, he spotted some sheep as we kind of crested one, and he doesn't tell me what they are, and for a long time, and he said we need to move, and so we go 150 yards on, and I still don't know what, he was the only one that laid eyes on him, and he sees the back too, and finally he says they're rams. I'm like, oh, that's good. But he doesn't look at them again. Well, then about 5 minutes later, he says, and one's a shooter. I'm like, well, you're just like trickling in information a little too slow.
Stringing you along, yeah.
Yeah. And so we're sitting there talking about this time. One pops up about 220 yards down the ridge. Like, we had moved pretty close, but it's so steep and cut up, you can't see them in these nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
So we go down about 20 yards and set up. We expect these rams to feed left to right. There's 5 of them total, one shooter. And we sit there for a half hour, nothing shows. So Matt says, I'm going to get up, but go back up and look. Maybe they bedded directly down below the pinnacle. There's one little pinnacle in the ridge that's kind of blocking, a pretty good chunk of ground. And he comes back about 5 minutes later. Yeah, they're just bedded right below there. We need to make another 30 feet, and we can maybe shoot from that pinnacle. So, normally he didn't care if we were rolling rocks. He's like, these sheep hear rocks rolling all the time. Doesn't matter. But this last 30 feet, he's like, be real quiet. And so we slowly pick our way down there. Don't roll any rocks. If they are going to roll, we stop them with our hiking poles or our feet, keep them sit still. And he goes down below me and he peeks up and he kind of gives us a thumbs up, but then he gave us the hold up sign and he goes to a little bit different spot on the rock and peeks up and then waves me down to that spot to shoot from. And when we get there, it's tough to not over dramatize or over exaggerate the setup, but it's almost vertical on the side that I'm standing, and it is definitely vertical on the side towards the sheep, and the sheep are straight down, like not a 45-degree angle down, but like a 70 to 75-degree angle straight below us. At 100. So it's not a shot I've ever practiced for.
Sure, yeah.
He's like, can you shoot from here? So I'm like on my right tippy toe, got my left leg like thrown up on the ridge the best I could. I can turn my scope,
shooting platform. Yeah.
Turn my scope way down. And I'm having trouble with your gun angled that so steep to get your eye high enough to get your scope to open up. So it's like, I'm trying to like stand up above my gun. And it's kind of a weird.
That's crazy.
And like, I think we're good. And I step back and take a couple deep breaths because Matt wanted to look at him some more. And then he waves me back up. And I'm like, well, I think I'm steady enough. And it's only a 170-yard shot, but straight down. And so he's like, and we're not aiming no angle. Like we're going to shoot him straight down through his shoulder blades, on his back. We figure out which ram's which a bunch of times. And so I go to squeeze one off and I thought I hit him. You get a report, you get a thud. The rams all stand up and they all run to him because he's the oldest one in the group. And they're all kind of standing there. And then me and Matt are kind of confirming which one's which because we don't want to make any mistakes.
Sure.
And then my ram goes to put his head down. I'm still thinking he's hit, or I assumed he was hit. Puts his head down like he's getting sick. And we confirm that that's the ram that just put his head down. And I was able to hit him perfect that time, shooting so steep that I hit him right below the spine. And it comes out like low on the opposite side.
Wow.
It just,
unbelievable.
At a crazy angle.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, we caught enough spine to kind of shock it. And then in sheep country, you want that sheep to sit right where he was. Unfortunately, he just kind of hung on in that little spot he was in and was
didn't roll down the cliff.
Yeah, real thankful for that. So we still don't know if I missed or hit on that first shot. There were some holes, but I also shoot burgers that sometimes leave additional exit holes, especially at close range. So the autopsy didn't reveal a lot. But yeah, a shot that I couldn't prepare for. The physical, everything was dialed, and then the shot was just crazy. But it was a little bit anticlimactic because you read all these sheep hunts and guys are grinding it out, 20-mile days, climbing this mountain, that mountain, and I'm like, oh, it's not even noon, and we're like done with like a dream animal of mine. And so it was like there was a little bit where you wanted it to continue, but then some of he had other hunters in different areas. They were 4 days locked into their tent, and I'm like, I'd much rather be done than just sitting in my tent.
Yeah,
sometimes you'll take a gift, right, Tommy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you'll take a gift.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I too am familiar with burger bullet performance as well, and there's definitely some shrapnel situations that you will run into. Hey, Jason, got to ask, because I'm kind of like, I've developed myself into being an elk snob, right? I love elk hunting. The way I explain it to people is, hey, man, if you're playing a game of chess, you got one player on your side, it's the queen. They got the whole board, and you got to make stuff happen and close the game. How does this hunt stack up for you? I mean, you've got so many trophies on your wall. Elk hunting aficionado. You've been doing it for years and years and years. Hunted a lot of big bulls. Where does this stack for you?
So it's really, really high. Like I had mentioned earlier, the goat hunt is one of crazy memories because your nerves are shot the whole time. Like when I'm elk hunting, I don't ever think, and this sounds like it's over dramatized, but like on Mount Baker and 6 inches of snow, like at times you're like, man, is it worth this? And so it brings your nerves. It's an extreme, extreme elements, extreme. And I love that not maybe everybody would be comfortable doing what we did. So there's a little bit of and I've got to elk hunt so much. Like I love elk hunting, maybe even more than sheep hunting, but these are special because this might be the only time I have ever get to chase sheep unless I go with a buddy or get lucky and draw. So they're always going to hold a special place, but man, they don't bugle at you. They don't do some things that elk do. So it's not the same hunt. It's more of a spot and stock like mule deer, but just the animal and where they live and the beauty that they live in and the rugged elements. It's like it'll be a special one that I'll definitely remember for a long time.
Awesome.
All right, before we get out here real quick, just summarize if you can, any specials going on folks can take advantage of to get on their elk calls prior to season here in September.
Yeah, so we've got like our season opener sale. Our season opener sale ends tonight. So there's a little bit of time left. And then we did put some bundles together, my personal call kit, Dirk's personal call kit, and then also what we call our easy call kit with our easy bugler, easy sucker, kind of everything for beginners. So those will save you, 20-30% if you buy them in the bundle versus everything individually. So that's kind of what we got going leading into season, and help everybody out and get you supplied and outfitted for elk season.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
Well, then go to phelpsgamecalls.com and check everything out and get it bought up and ordered before you run out. So, all right, buddy, always a pleasure. Never enough time. Thanks for the story. Fantastic opportunity you took full advantage of, and congratulations on getting a real nice round.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
You bet.
You
Talk
too.
to you soon. All right, Jason Phelps. Check him out, Phelps Game Calls, and follow him on social media platforms because he's got a lot going on. All right, jumping out for a quick break. We come back. Buoy10 time, Tommy, with our buddy Kyle Buschelman. Again, get your notepad ready because Kyle's got a lot of information to bring to you after this break right here, Fishing Northwest. Welcome back to the program, Dwayne England, Tommy Donlin, and next up today, Kyle Buschelman, Willamette Valley Outfitters LLC. No stranger to the show, no stranger to actually time on the water, and looking forward to next week. How you been, buddy?
Doing pretty good, thanks.
Fantastic. Hey, let's get right into this. Buoy10, I mean, it's kind of the buzz as of late. Tons of fish, is the rumor. Are they the right kind of fish? You finding plenty of hatchery marked fish, or how are your days going?
Well, it's every day's different. Yesterday we found plenty of hatchery fish. Today we had to release a lot of fish, but everybody killed fish, so it was a success. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Hey, Kyle, man, we're already 3 weeks into August. It almost feels like fall because we're getting this rain. Leaves are starting to change color.
Mm-hmm.
Are you already seeing a nice mix of Chinook and coho, or what's your ratio there?
We've had coho since day one here. Now there was a few days with the soft tide that they kind of backed off, but there's a lot of coho, and they're good size too. I mean, we did a 13-pound coho yesterday.
Wow.
That's just really big for this time of year. So
yeah. Well, you know what? That's the same exact thing that we saw at a Westport in the ocean. Is just really early on, just an absolute great of fish. And that was really the next question I was going to ask. I'm going to throw it over to you, Dwayne.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna the grade of fish is one thing everybody's been talking about for sure. I want to get right into talking about some tides. I want to, we talk water temperature, we talk tides, and I think Next segment, we're going to jump into the gear setup and presentation with you. But let's get a little understanding on how folks should approach these tides. So how about, I don't know, an example of a good outgoing tide? You got that outgoing river, outgoing tide. That current, is it pushing these fish back down river, and is it shoving them to the bottom, or are you fishing those fish suspended? Talk a little bit about that.
It's been a little different this year. The fish have just kind of kept moving. You can look at the dam counts and see the number of fish we have going over. They're not holding in the estuary this year. I've never been a guy that's too stuck on the temperature.
Okay.
There's warm water, and then there's cooler water, and I kind of follow the tide up. I've always just fished the tide. If I wake up like in 2 days, we're going to wake up with a high slack, I'm going to be above the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get up on 66 or 64. It's just the fish are everywhere. This outgoing tide today was 50% through the tide. We started at the checkerboard early. Today was one of those days where we could either started at 9 a.m., which means the clients are fishing till 5 or 4,
mm-hmm.
or we start at 6:30. We chose 6:30, and we had like 8 or 9 fish on that outgo today.
Okay.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
And it's pretty common, when you have these big negative tides and it's pushing to kind of fish the checkerboard because there's a little less current there.
Sure.
Dead center of the sandbar and of the Desmona sands.
Right.
Be pretty good.
Just below that. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you talked about the outgoing. So what about the incoming? Are you nosing your boat into that incoming tide and kind of backing up river? Are you finding those fish? Are they still on the bottom? They suspended? What does the incoming program look like?
Today they were kind of all over. Like early in the season, my rods that were on the deck were getting hit a lot. Today, my back rods were the slowest rods, and my mid rods with 16 ounces, like 35 foot. We're fishing, let's say, 50 foot of water. So really, I was probably fishing only 20 feet deep. My middle rods got banged up today, and we were holding on. So we actually started that downstream troll from 14 down to 10, and it was going at about 3.5 miles an hour on the drift on the troll, and we were hammering fish. And then when it turned, we were hammering fish all the way back up to 14, and then it just kind of kept biting all day. And I just followed them river and holding as we went, stopped at 22, went to Hammond, and then finished off my day at the bridge right below on the Oregon.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of fish around, right? So it's very productive. All right, don't go anywhere. Kyle, we're going to come back from this break. We're going to really dive into some of your rigging techniques and some of the things you're presenting to be so successful. Okay, don't go anywhere. Jumping out for a quick break. More with Kyle Buschelman. We come back right here, Fishing Northwest.
Hey, Walt wanted some TV
All right, welcome back here in the studio. Dwayne and Tommy Donlin, and of course, Kyle Buschelman still hanging on. And Kyle, let's just kind of get right into this. Break down some rigging. Let's talk a little bit about fishing spinners. First off, you fishing just like a naked spinner or a spinner with a hoochie? And how is that tied up? Single hooks, treble on a single? How you rig your spinners?
Well, I'm running both. I'm running, so pretty much all of my Colorado blades I run without a hoochie. And if I'm running my Cascades, they will have hoochies on it. So, and they're 3.5s. I don't run a lot of colors. I kind of have like 4. I pretty much run Mexican Hat, Bronco, the Goat spinner, which I really like.
Yeah.
And then I like Cotton Candy and Coast Guard with the pink back.
Yeah.
If they hit any of those colors, they're just not going to bite. I don't get too carried away. And then I run those. All my spinners are pretty much 26 inches.
Okay.
I don't do crazy with that. And I'm using 24-inch bumpers. But today the spinners work pretty good. We had some change in colors, and it got brighter outside, the Mexican Hat and the Goat spinner went the last 2 days pretty good. And then Bronco was really good today too.
Okay.
Right on.
So,
Hey, are you running the Brad Super Baits at all? And like, if you are, which models of those are you running? When you run those, does that change your bumper length, your leader length? Talk to us about that.
Yep. So I do run the Brads, and I'm running the skinnies for the most part. I do run the mini cut plugs, but the skinnies are just on fire. I'm running those with a 32-inch bumper. Every one of them's 32 inches.
Really? You go from 24 to 32 on the original skinny.
Yeah, 32-inch, 24-inch bumper, and then my leader length, 30.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
2-inch
makes sense.
lead.
Okay.
Yep. And then colors, man, I'm fishing the same 5, pretty much. Highlighter, mountain roses, catching some fish.
Nice.
Rot banana's been good always, and then mango habanero. And then my favorite's Johnny Lava. That one's on fire. So they're running good, and they fish easy. They fish in heavy current. They fish in soft current. So they're an easy way to fish. And then the krill with tuna, with the firepower, I've got it loaded with krill.
Right.
It seems to work. So I'm usually running about 3 super baits, 3 spinners, kind of gauge the bite, and then I kind of add accordingly.
Nice.
And it's a pretty simple program. I don't get caught up. I just work on a good thump on my rods. If I'm not getting it, I troll faster, or I find water. Sometimes when you got the currents, coming underneath and over the top, you're not getting that thump. You just got to move to different water. It's
fighting it, right? Yeah, no sense fighting it. All right, real quick before we get out of here, talk a little bit about setting up your boat with multiple rods. You're fishing at times 6 and 7 rods, depending if you got full clients. Every seat filled. And so when you're running those rods, is there different rod lengths from bow to stern? Also, how about the weight arrangement when you're on that lead?
Yeah, I'm running more like 11.5-foot rods up on the bow rods, and all the rest of my rods are like 10.5.
Okay.
Weight wise varies. Like on the outgo today, I was running 16s, 14s, and 12s. 12s at the back, 14s in the middle, 16s up front. As the current changed and we were holding in, I ran 20s, 16s, and 14s.
Okay.
Because my back rods, I still want to get down. My back rods today, I was running like 110 on the counter.
Oh, wow.
And they were getting hammered at the very end. So that's kind of cool, but stick to it. It's fine and fish. You got to watch your electronics. Your electronics aren't going to like too much, and don't overthink it. If you're seeing fish down low, you got to put yourself down low. And sometimes it feels weird to be 115 on a counter, but they're getting bit. And I run my skinnies like that because, like I said, they can pump hard in that current down there. Fail, they don't foul up, and it seems to be working pretty good this year.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, we're coming down early next week. Going to jump in the boat with you. Scott Call, partner of Brad's, is jumping in with us. We're going to fish and film. We're going to show a lot of our folks here following us exactly how you rig your stuff, how you fish it. We're going to go through the entire thing with you, break it down, and bring it back to the people next week. So appreciate you taking the time tonight, buddy. Good to see you. And I will be seeing you in a few days. Cannot wait.
All right, man. Thank you guys very
You
much.
bet.
Yeah, take care, Kyle.
Kyle Buschelman, Willamette Valley Outfitters. Look him up, social media platforms or on his webpage, and that guy puts you on the fish. Okay, jumping out for a quick break. We come back and introduce you to our in-studio guest tonight, Frank Urabeck, and you're going to pay attention to what this gentleman has to say. He's been doing it for a couple of years. He knows what he's talking about. Frank Urabeck. We come back from the break right here, Fishing Northwest. All right, welcome back here to the program. Dwayne England, Tommy Donlin, and Frank Urabeck, in-studio guests. And Frank, thanks for showing up.
Guys, great place. I'm impressed.
Oh,
Welcome.
well, we like to hear that from the first guest in studio for the year. So yeah, that's going to work out just fine. So let's face it, you've been well involved in fisheries for a number of years. You're a strong advocate, strong proponent for the Lake Washington Sockeye fishery.
Right.
You're still an engineer in
Right.
my mind, and your brain as well. It's still Tommy. Once you're an engineer, always an
That's
engineer.
right.
Civil engineer is how you made your living, and that carries over to a lot of things you're involved with. So talk about you've been involved with that Cedar River hatchery program for how many years?
Well, I've been involved with the sockeye on the Cedar for 50 years.
Oh, boy.
I was actually doing some work with the city of Seattle as an engineer, helping there with their dam up there. And we were tumbled on the fact that the sockeye run at the time, which was pretty good, was actually the best economic value if they could achieve flood control. Because we were finding out that the flood peaks were what were fluctuating in those days. The sockeye run. And
Gotcha.
I came out of grad school and we figured that out.
Okay.
And that was my first involvement with the Corps.
Man, I remember fishing that sockeye fishery back on Lake Washington in 2003 to 2005.
Yeah.
I had a little 14-foot open bow aluminum boat with a 40-horse Johnson on the back. And we would launch at midnight at Coulon Park because you had to get there early just to get in the water.
For sure.
And that was a program. It was always phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
you had to wait until the sun came up. As soon as it did, lines in, you were hooked up.
It was an event that was marveled a lot of, about the other stuff that was going on in Seattle at the time. The Lake Washington celebration, the Blue Angels and all of that. This was a big part of it. People get excited, start watching those counts. No, I started fishing Lake Washington about 1970 in a 10-foot pram with 6 inches of freeboard.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the last time we had that season was 2006.
Yes.
It was phenomenal. We had a lot of participation.
417,000.
417,000.
18-day fishery,
Yeah,
right?
very good.
18-day fishery.
Yeah.
And lots of participation. It just kept going and going. I think
Right.
Tommy and I were talking. People got tired of fishing sockeye. They wanted to go do something else, but you kept giving them that opportunity. So,
Yep.
they kept going after it. So back in 2011, I think we even talked about it on the radio back in the day. Big rebuild on the big rebuild on the hatchery. Do you recall how much money they dumped into that program that year?
Well, the hatchery itself probably cost about $25 million.
Okay.
And then they've been putting out probably close to $1 million a year for the operating costs.
Gotcha.
And they have the states under contract to actually run the hatchery for the city of Seattle. They're not in the hatchery business, but
Sure.
they had to do it. So,
Okay.
and that was a big fight. We almost didn't get that. We had opposition from some of the environmental groups, very strong opposition. Lawsuits went to the federal courts, the state courts. Delayed things 5 years, so we could have had that hatchery online 5 years early. We finally
Interesting.
beat them, but it was a heck of a fight.
Now, we also went through the effort to have some additional projects in place to help save those fish and improve their survivability. Now, one of those was a sewer system upgrade.
Oh, around the lake. Yep.
That around the lake.
Mhm.
But this really actually proved to be detrimental
Absolutely.
to the fish. So what
Does that even make sense? I
what
mean, think
happened
about
there?
that, right?
Yeah, what happened?
Very few people understood that. When I was a kid, I got out of high school and the lake was starting to blossom
Right.
by the time you got in the summer season. And
With
a few
algae?
years afterwards, the algae.
Yeah.
Well, we said, the algae is not good because we want to swim in the lake, And what we didn't realize is the algae actually provided cover for the sockeye to the predator fish, because the predators are all sight feeders.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't that provided food supply. It might have done a little bit of that, but the lake still got plenty of food in there for the sockeye.
Mhm.
And that's what happened. So when the lake got dirty, that population, took off, and we had never really realized that that resource was there. And then when we decided to clean up the lake and do the interceptors and cut out the sewage treatment plant discharges into the lake, which put nutrients, cause the algae,
Sure.
over time, it became clear. And so you took away the cover. And then with the development of the lake and the land, the lighting at night, so we had sockeye being fed on 24/7 for
Right.
that full year they're in the lake. And that's what really hammered us. And then some idiots were dumping different fish in the lake.
Microbiology.
Yeah,
that's right.
and so it all happened. Right now we got about 14 different species
A predator.
There are predators on the lake. They get down to near the mouth of the cedar when those sockeye are coming out.
Yeah.
And so, but we've learned a lot. We've had more studies done on Lake Washington than any lake in the state of Washington.
Wasn't it the University of Washington? They figured out 97% of the outmigrant fry were consumed.
Yeah, there was a
for
professor.
predation.
That's what he came up with based on limited data. There was always a question because we didn't have it, and we're now installing. And I pushed that. I basically said the state didn't have an option. We got to get hard data as engineers. You got to know
Sure,
what's
yeah.
going on.
Mhm.
And we're finding out now we're going to have a sonar system. It's in place in the lake, in the ship canal above the Ballard locks, and we'll be able to get an accurate number on that. 3% survival has been the number for a long time. I've done some analysis recently, and I think we're up to 5%. Now it's
Okay.
still not big, but if we can kick that up further, then we got a chance to rebuild.
When
that
you're
line.
when you're referring to that survival 3%, 5%, that is fried to smolt outmigrant.
Fry to smoke,
Okay.
exactly.
All right,
Yeah.
we're going to hold it right there. We come back, we're going to talk more with Frank on predation, some solutions, projects in the works, and things to look forward to in the future if we can finally turn this thing around for all his due diligence and hard work for all these number of years. So more with Frank Urabeck. We come back after this commercial break right here, Fish Out Northwest. All right, welcome back here in studio to Winning on Tommy Dunlin, our in-studio guest, Frank Urabeck. And Frank, before the break, we were kind of talking about a number of things affecting, having a successful fishery. Now, looking back, we used to have a threshold or requirement of returning fish numbers to be in and around 350,000
Right.
before we could even consider having a recreational
Right.
opportunity. Have they backed that number down now? What are we kind of looking at?
Well,
wherever
we're
we get a
forced
fishery?
it.
You forced it.
The guy that put that together is long gone.
Right.
And we post and re-exam, and then the whole premise of that is changed. And so if you start to look at things as they exist today, we find, and you look at Baker, when we have fisheries at 12,000,
Right.
We can get down to the lower numbers, but it's a mindset, especially with a tribe, to get them to accept that those big numbers. And what you have to focus on is the number of fish we can take home,
Sure.
and rather than run size.
Okay.
And if we can have a fishery, maybe a run of 65,000 where I'm at, and have 40,000 we can take home and split that with the tribes, that's not too far different than what we're doing on Baker
Baker Lake,
today.
yeah, for sure.
And even on Lake Washington at a time. Sure, we
Gotcha.
had sometimes we got up to 60,000 we split.
Okay.
But so that's where I'm saying, let's re-examine things, set aside what we did in the past,
Right.
but we can still get fisheries that are meaningful.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Hey, Frank, there's been a number of articles that have talked about the trucking of adults from the fish ladder to the hatchery. Can you
Right.
talk to us about, what is the purpose of that, and is it working?
Lake Washington, as we found out, we tried to do good, we did bad in the sense for the fish. And then Mother Nature, with the global warming, temperatures, and a whole bunch of things going at us, produced a kind of a lethal thing. And we were losing 50%, sometimes 70% of the fish that went through the locks, came into the lake, never made it to the cedar
Due to temperature?
due to temperature.
Yeah.
Because of disease, sockeye are so susceptible to
Right.
disease if you raise that
Right.
temperature.
Right.
And they spend quite a bit of time in the lake. And so that was the big problem there. And someone says, well, why don't we try something different we never done before? And that is to let's capture them at the fish ladder, put them in a truck, or put them in a boat, tribal boat, take it to a pier, put them in a truck and take them. And they didn't know if that was going to work. And it has. They started out with 300 fish 4 years ago.
Okay.
And now this year they took 2,400
Oh,
fish.
wow.
And we have the capacity today between 4 round tubs and the concrete raceways to have up to 3,200.
Okay.
The intent is to go to 20 tubs, and these are 20-foot diameter, 5-foot deep tubs, each holding 400 fish.
Okay.
And so those are what we're looking for and what we think we can do. We've got to get water supply.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get a permit to get the water right.
Oh, yeah.
And we got a lot of bureaucracy, and that's going to take 3 more years.
Okay.
But I'm satisfied we can have a fishery by 2033, something in that order, if we get some additional data from this sonar stuff,
Yep.
and get everybody together, get an agreement on the technical parts
Sure.
in 2 years, and then go full speed ahead between the state, the city of Seattle, and the tribe, and with support by others, and we can have
Gotcha.
that fishery.
Okay.
Well, something that we say where I work is that facts and data will set you free.
There you go.
And if,
Yeah.
if only everybody was an engineer, we'd probably have
Yeah,
this problem.
right.
solved
World be
already.
solved, right?
No offense
Yeah.
to the non-engineers
Yeah,
that are
perfect.
viewing
Yeah.
tonight, but
It's our fault.
so speaking of doing calculus and numbers, so you talked about survivability rate 3%, maybe it's 5%. You have somewhere in the neighborhood of 97% predation historically on these fish and these out migrant smolts. When you do all that math, at the end of the day, what kind of egg count are we talking is required? And if what's stopping us from being able to produce that number of eggs and let those fish loose?
Well, and this is my scenario, but the state guy who's worked this, we talked this morning independently. He came up with 60,000. I
Okay.
came up with 65,000 run size. That's what we think we can
Okay.
produce.
Okay.
And to do that with mine, you need about 13,000 eggs.
Million or 1,000?
Million eggs, excuse
Yeah,
me. Thank
13
you.
million eggs.
Yeah,
Yes.
13 million. Well,
13 million eggs.
yeah, that's what I
Okay.
meant to say.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get that, and if you look at those, if you get 20 round tubs, 4 raceways,
Yeah.
400 apiece, you just do the numbers, and you look. And I talked to them today, and they've got very low pre-spawn mortality, like in those round tubs with
Right.
spring water.
Right.
less than 2%.
Oh,
Wow.
that's fantastic.
Less than
phenomenal.
2% mortality. And even in the concrete raceways where you're using river water,
Yeah.
it's still not that bad.
Wow,
Yeah.
fantastic. All right, never enough time. Way too much information to get through, but we're gonna jump out for our final break. We come back. We got just a couple minutes to try wrap this up.
Sure.
So don't go anywhere. More with Frank Urabeck. We come back after this break right here, Fish on Northwest. All right, welcome back here to the program as we wind it down. Frank, there is a whole lot going on here. A lot of numbers to compile, keep track of, egg take, survivability of fry to smolt, out migrant, ocean survivability, try to make it back, get us to our 65,000 so we can have a fishery. Folks want more information, want to pay attention to what's going on, stay informed, get in contact with you. How can they do that?
I think the best way is send me an email. My email address is F, like for Frank, but then my last name, Urabeck, Urabeck at Comcast.net.
Perfect.
Send me an email, establish a relationship. I can use the support. We're going to have to be as much political with elected officials of Seattle and the state. And we've got a new governor coming in, and there's just a whole bunch of people. We might be able to pull this off, but we'll know in 2 years. We'll do that technical evaluations, either no or go.
Gotcha.
But I want to be optimistic. I think we can make it a go.
Yeah. Well, appreciate all your dedication to this program, long-standing. I've talked to you about it for years. I want to see it survive. If nothing else, I want to get that hatchery up there in the Cedar River named after you.
Thank you.
yeah.
That's great.
Frank Urabeck hatchery on the Cedar River. So appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much for taking.
Well, thanks for me being on the show. You guys are great, and we look forward to listening to you. And I'll share some notes from you from Saturday.
Fantastic. All right, you're going to do it for us this week here out of the studio. We got some fishing to get done through the week and through the weekend. I hope you find some time as well. So have a great week. Have a great weekend. Tommy and I will see you back here next week, right here, Fish on Northwest.